Coming up on the pod, my friend Mike joins me and we recap episode 12 of Survivor season 50. The dream ends. Cirie Fields, one of the greatest Survivor players in history, the all-time greatest social player, and one of the top 2 or 3 strategists in the history of the game, voted out. In addition, we lost Rick Devens, who was mad entertaining this season, drove a lot of the action, drove a lot of just the sheer joy and lightheartedness that we got. Me and Mike are going to break it all down. But first, a little bit of music for my friends at Prosper. All right. Hello, and welcome. We are here. My good pal Mike is on to mourn, to recap episode 12 of Survivor season 50. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
I'm not well, Kevin. It has been a rough go these last few hours of watching and coming to terms with the great Cirie Fields meeting her end. But in all seriousness, I will take my off here. But I am, it's coming. It was definitely, I saw the writing on the wall, especially after last week, but nothing quite prepares you for when it happens. And I'm just upset. It's heartbreaking. Listen, I watched a lot of Cirie exit videos and exit press today, and she is in such great spirits. And her mentality is that she is so grateful she made it this far. And you know what? That's the mentality that if our queen is happy about her experience, I think she herself is shocked she made it as far as she did. So you know what? Let me revel in the moment that I got Cirie Fields on Survivor 50 for 12 episodes, playing the best game she's ever played, in my opinion. So I can't be too upset. I'm disappointed, but the best of the best, really. And it's a shame to see her go. And she went out like a class act.
Classy all the way. For anyone who was living under a rock and did not see it last night, a 2-person elimination. We got Rick Devens voted out first. We'll get to that. But obviously, we lost Cirie, who, if you're making a list of top Survivor players in history, you're not going to get very far before you say Cirie. Mm-hmm. And, I was thinking about it, before the season, it felt like it was her time. She played so good. And, the dream kind of died last night.
Unfortunately, it did. It died with Ozzy's idol in his pocket, sadly, I think. But, it was an uphill battle from day one. When you enter a season, even with 24 people, she probably had the biggest target on her back walking into this door. So, you know what? To make it to top 6, it's no easy feat. And she did an amazing job this season. So, and Rick left too, but I'm going to focus on Cirie. But it was sad to see her go. But you know what? I'm proud of the game she played this season.
You picked up on this before I did, because it was a couple of weeks ago. You had tipped off. To be honest with you, I hadn't picked up on the Aubry winners edit, and that has really been in the conscious lately. And you picked up on it, and you picked up on the signs and saw the writing on the wall that before I did. Let's get into it a little bit though, because Rizo flips on Ozzy last week, and we get down to a final 7 where you've got Cirie and Devens, who were voted out this week. You've got Aubry, Joe, and Jonathan, and you've got Rizo and Tiffany. Talk about the decision at 7. Everyone really geared up and focused in on Devens right away. I mean, Cirie is so smart. Why do you think she didn't consider going in a different direction than Devens at 7?
It's funny, and I thought about this and listened, and I think I got a little clarity even in her exit press, because I want to say people asked her this, and she it alluded to that I felt like it was going to be Devens no matter what. I don't know how much convincing that she could have done to keep somebody else around other than Devens and to get rid of Devens. listen, I do think at the end of the day, like, she needed that meat shield. Like, once Devens was gone, everybody was gonna go after Cirie. Um, in a way, I was like, should she have fought to save Devens? But I think it was very clear. Like, I don't know if it's being talked about a lot. Like, she did not want to go against Rizo one bit, and
Yeah.
she really, I think, cared and loved that kid, and really worked well with him. And in a way, like, when the option was either to get rid of Rizo or Devens, I don't think she even remotely considered betraying Rizo. I think she has a soft spot. He's younger than all of her three sons. Like, it's you know what? There's kind of a motherly vibe she has with him, and he's an excited player. And I don't know. I just think she didn't want to go against Rizo, which seemed to be the only other alternative at that point. But listen, Devens is a huge threat, and I really think you weren't convincing anyone else of anything. I know Tiffany had the idea to go after Rizo, but I don't know how serious it was. And I just think there's a big fish to fry when you're at top 7, and they all wanted Rick. And sadly, Cirie, now that she doesn't have 2 votes, she only has 1 vote. So try as she might, I don't know if it was even a hill she was willing to die on.
Yeah, the irony is, one of the architects of some of the all-time blindsides in the history of Survivor. You think about Ozzy getting blindsided in Fans versus Favorites. That was 100% Cirie. She stayed very loyal to the end, supporting Rizo and not wanting to turn on him. And Ozzy, the killer with Ozzy was he made it too easy for Rizo to flip. And it probably made it hard for Cirie to figure out Rizo actually did flip.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we talked about it last week. I was actually more so surprised how positively Cirie reacted to what Rizo was saying. I mean, it was a very rational explanation as to what he did. I mean, he really did sell Cirie's game down the river, Ozzy. And so Ozzy kind of gave ammunition to kind of protect Rizo in a way, to be like, I was going to betray him anyway. We don't know, but I think he might have done it anyway. But it gave the perfect cover up to be like, wasn't my fault. He did it to himself. So, yeah, I think she really had this trust with Rizo. And unfortunately, I just think at the end of the day, nobody wants to sit next to Cirie in the finals. If you want to win this game and you want to walk out of here with $2 million, and I think even Cirie knows that.
Yeah.
He has to. So I think she knew that Ozzy was one of the only people who would take her to the end. I actually, in an exit press, she actually said that she believed Tiffany would have also taken her to the end, which
I believe that.
I do believe it. I think there was a mutual respect there amongst the two of them. And I really think they had a lot closer of a relationship than I think we even got to see. I know we saw it a little bit, but not really and as in much detail as it showed Cirie being close with Ozzy and Rizo. But yeah, there was no world where Rizo was going to sit next to Cirie and win. So it was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, I don't think she faulted him for that. I think she knew. It wasn't just that she was a juicy target. Beyond even Ozzy, right? Ozzy was a big target, but Ozzy, I don't think, had the resume when he got to the end and he couldn't pitch. Cirie actually had the resume, and I think she knew at some point, whether it was at 6 or 5 or 4, they were gonna be talking about, we got to get Cirie out.
Totally.
I want to talk through one other thing with you, which I thought was really interesting. How about the Hail Mary from Cirie? I thought that was a very clever use of information.
I loved it. And that's why Cirie is Cirie. I mean, to throw it out there, I think she knew as soon as Tiffany won that challenge that, I mean, you'd have to be stupid not to think that they're going to go after you at this point at top 6. I mean, we're getting near to the end here. And if fire is a thing, like, there's only one more vote in top 5 that you could get her out without a guarantee, because if you let her go to fire and she wins, she's in the final and she's winning the whole thing. So I think it was either this vote or next vote, and they had the chance and they were going to strike while they could. I really, it's hard. It's a hard thing to think about her leaving, but she tried, and she threw that out there with Aubry. She knew that there was doubt with Aubry. She knew that there was some seeds of doubt that Jonathan and Joe don't really trust her that much. So listen, she went out swinging. She really did, and I love her for it. I thought it might work. I thought it's a possibility. But I just think at the end of the day, you could do it as much as you can and say Cirie, Aubry, but Cirie is Cirie, and I think they knew she had to go.
Yeah, it was cool to see her outfox Rizo a little bit there because Rizo couldn't come clean and say, "Oh no, it was me who." Oh wait, I can't tell you it was me who spilled the beans.
Yeah.
So she pinned him in very smartly,
Mm-hmm.
and I also think it confirmed one other really important thing. I think, regardless of Tiffany winning immunity at 6, I think they were voting Cirie.
Yeah.
I think the whole Tiffany thing was a smokescreen. I think that it was a done deal. Like, and you saw Aubry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aubry was very oriented on, look, I got to get the big targets out of the game. And when, you could talk about Tiffany all you want, but Cirie was the big target.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, love Tiff, and she is an immunity threat, but like, end of the day, you're putting Tiff up against Cirie. I mean, who is a bigger threat to win this game? It's Cirie.
Yeah. I want you to break down 2 things for me. One, now that we have Ozzy and Cirie on the jury, 2/3 of Cirie's Wizard of Oz will be deciding, at least 2/3 will be deciding who wins the million. If Rizo does get to the end, do you think they vote for him? Do you think him flipping costs him their votes?
Here's what I'll say. Personally, I don't think he's going to make it to the end, but let's put a hypothetical there if he does.
Yeah.
I think he'll get Cirie's. I don't think he'll get Ozzy's. I think
Fair.
Ozzy is a far too emotional person, and I think Ozzy just does not respond well to any sort of betrayal and doesn't view it as much of a game move. I think Cirie does a really nice job of taking the emotions out of it. And Cirie understands, like, hello, you don't want to sit next to me because I would have won. And I appreciate that about her. So I think depending on Rizzo's argument at Final Tribal, I think, listen, Cirie has a lot of respect for Aubry. She has worked closely with Jonathan, and I don't think Joe would get her vote. And Tiffany, I mean, Tiffany could be there too, and she loves Tiff. So I think it's a toss up depending on Rizzo's case and all of that. But end of the day, I do think that it's a possibility for Rizo to get Cirie's vote. I do not think he would ever get Ozzy's.
Okay. I think that's fair. The other topic that's gotten a lot of attention, and Aubry's the one who really got this ball rolling down the hill here. Was this Cirie's best game ever? And I want to give you the other candidates because she's played 5 times. When she played the first time in Panama, she was she was great and tons of fun, plucky underdog, the woman who got up off the couch, lost in a really classic Final Four fire-making duel. I want to kind of put that one aside because I think that was her first one, and it was very entertaining, but probably not her best one. And then Heroes Villains also, where she was out early, we'll put it aside. The other candidates are Fans versus Favorites Micronesia, where she made a deep run. She was the architect of the blind side. It was called, TV Guide called it the blind side heard around the world when Ozzy got voted out. Would have potentially won that game if it were a final 3. However, that was the twist that season was the final 2, and we got Amanda Kimmel and Parvati. So she went out at 3. And then the second nominee would be Game Changers, where she was playing so well that season. And she was tight with Sarah, and historically voted out because everyone else had an immunity idol. And I think she went out at 6.
6, same position as 50.
And 5 other people had immunity, and so she was essentially voted out by default. And then obviously now we have 50. So out of those 3, rank it for me. Is this the best game she's played?
In thinking about it, honestly, and it could just be recency bias, I do think this is her best. I think this is her best game she's played. I think it was amazing to watch her social mastery in every way. It is like she has honed all of her skills that she has learned. Like, she really embodied what 50 is all about. Not only that she is a legend and is playing for the 5th time, 6th if you're counting Australia versus the world, but like, she is combining every ounce of of social skill that she has learned over the years. And she was just masterful in every decision, every conversation. I don't think you could say she made any mistakes. I don't think she made any missteps here. I think it was just her target is too big. Her only misstep is not winning out in final immunities. And that's hard for her to do. I think she knew going into this it was going to be an uphill battle. I honestly think the twists of the split tribals, putting her Ozzy away from her, kind of screwed her more than anything. I don't think there was anything necessarily that she could have done. I'd say Micronesia's right there after it. I do think if it was a final three, and I think even Parvati has said this too, like Cirie would have won. Like
Yeah.
Cirie,
That was her season.
yeah, I mean, it was her season. Listen, not to discredit Parv's game. I think that was also an incredibly dominant game from her, and she had a big hand in Black Widow Brigade and the immunity, and even Ozzy's blindside, a big time decision on her part. So, but Cirie that was a major, major, major season for Cirie, and I think that's really her first season was strong, but I think Micronesia really put Cirie on the map. But I just think this season felt different. It felt like the impossible for Cirie to make it as far as she did. And it just was really special to watch her navigate all these different personalities from old to young, to make connections with people like Rizo, who we didn't expect her to make a connection with, to rekindling a connection with Ozzy, and to play a successful advantage and save herself in last week's vote. I just think it was a masterful game by Cirie this time around. It was a celebration of who she is as a player, and I really would rank this as her best game of all time. I really would.
Okay. I'm a little bit split on it. I really loved her game in Micronesia.
100%.
I mean, she was dominant. And I will say this, Micronesia Cirie would have voted Jonathan and Rizzo out before, at 8 and 7.
Yeah.
And it would have been a very different ending. The flip side is I don't think she had as reliable alliance partners, right?
Yes.
As Parvati, Natalie, what was Natalie's last name?
Bolton, yeah.
Natalie Bolton and Amanda, right? You had probably the most dominant alliance in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was playing a little bit different hand here. But clearly one of those two, I think, are,
Yeah, I agree. And you brought up a really good point. I do think, which one could argue, which made this game a little bit even more impressive, is that she was kind of on her own. She had Ozzy, but it was kind of like by default, she had Rizzo. Parv and Cirie both call each other their survivor soulmates. Like, it's special to have a relationship like that out there where you just completely trust each other in every way, shape, or form. And I just think you're right. I love that comparison. Micronesia, Cirie had like people she fully trusted and could make these moves with, where I don't think she had that artillery here. I just think she kind of had to make moves and establish connections with people who didn't fully trust her all the way. So I think it could be an argument for both. And I fully respect your opinion on the Micronesia one, because I do think it was a phenomenal game of hers. I think it's a toss-up between 50 and Micronesia.
To steal a quote from someone who was on this pod, she convinced a guy to give up an immunity necklace in Micronesia.
It's so
true.
Mean,
that's and willingly.
I know.
Listen,
that's
that's strong stuff.
It's true. It's true. Like, listen, that is such a legendary season, and it just goes to show that we're trying to figure out what Cirie's best, most legendary season is. The fact that she has multiple incredible seasons and not just one or two. She has three. One would argue her Game Changer season was amazing, and her first season was amazing. I think she had a little flub in Heroes versus Villains, but like it really is a testament to who she is, of how she went. And honestly, I think one of my favorite stats is this was her first time ever being voted out in a true majority in the and let's throw it in there because we've more including Australia versus the world. So you want to throw 6 seasons in there.
Crazy.
It's the first time where she is actually gone out in a natural vote. of a majority vote, no twist, no anything. First season was fire. Second season was top 3, like a one-person vote because they had to go to 2. Heroes vs. Villains, she got idled out because Tom played the idol, so it was a minority vote. Obviously, advantage get in 34 in Game Changers, and in Australia versus the World, she went to Fire 2 in Final 4. So this is the first time where she literally got voted out in a 4-2 vote. So she played 6 times, and this is her first time actually going by a legitimate majority vote. Come on. I mean, it's
incredible.
She's a legend when you really think about that. It's really impressive.
We don't have to spend a ton of time talking about her legacy. Cirie is in the rarefied air of Survivor players, 140 plus days. She's played 5 times. And I think when you're at that level, you could make a case for any one of 6 players, if you want to say are your greatest player of all time. Yeah. You want to say it's Cirie, make the case. It's fine. You want to say it's Boston Rob. You want to say it's Tony. You want to say it's Sandra. You want to say it's Parv. I also put Sarah in the mix.
Yeah, Sarah, you're a big Sarah fan. She had an amazing showing on 34, no doubt.
Sarah's running 34, and and we could talk about Sarah another time. Her and Tony are inexplicably intertwined. I mean, you're talking about one competitive fire-making challenge away from her being the 2-time winner.
Yeah.
And so you stack up an incredible 34 with a really, her and Tony were clutch when they had to in Winners at War. There were a couple of times where they were going to be voted out, and Tony won immunity. They got power, right? And so I do put her on the list, but you can, once you're at that level, I mean, you can argue for whoever, you prefer.
Yeah. I think Cirie has 100% established herself, continued to establish herself as the best player to never win, and has skyrocketed herself into that kind of elite top 5 or 6 that people could argue is the best of all time.
Yeah, I was thinking about the right sports comp. She's a little bit like a Steph Curry. Curry is not 7 feet tall. He can't dunk like Jordan. He's not just an absolute athletic god like LeBron. But the things he does well, he does so much better than anyone else in history, which is his handle and his shooting is about as good as it gets. And, when you look at Cirie's game, she can't make fire, clearly. She does not do well in immunity challenges. And a startling lack of power acquired over her 5 seasons. Like, my goodness, find an idol, woman.
Yeah.
But she makes up for it by being probably, I don't think it's a stretch to say, she is the greatest social player in the history of the game and probably one of the top 2 or 3 strategists. I think her, Rob, Sandra, Parv, I mean, you could mix them up, but the strategy piece of this game, she sees it all. Like, there's no getting anything past her.
Agreed. And I loved Aubry's nod to her in the vote off. I think there's such a mutual respect between the two of them, and they did play and sat next to each other in Game Changers in top 6 when Cirie went. Aubry was sitting right there next to her with an advantage. So it is for her to say, like, you're better than Sandra, you're better than Tony. Sandra's not going to be too happy about that. But like, for her to say that, it was just it just goes to show like the true and utter respect people have for Cirie. And at the end of the day, again, you're sitting with someone like that. Nobody's going to want to sit next to her. You want to win this game. You're not going to bring her. I mean, as a fan, I'd want to bring her. But like, if I really am putting myself in a position, like, I don't want to bring her. Like, if I want to win, sorry.
Yeah. Sandra's win in Heroes Villains was pretty special. Somehow she convinced Parvati and Russell to take her, and she had no shot when reality is she knew she had the jury. That was, Cassandra also not going to, Sandra's not winning an immunity challenge. That was a pretty special win. But, at this level, you're not going to find, you're talking about the best of the best here. You can, there's a couple of glaring mistakes that each have made. They've all had way more, hundreds of more highlights and hundreds of more big moves than, the mistakes. And, that's why they're at the top of the mountain.
100%.
Can we talk a little bit about Rick Devens?
Sure. Let's do it. I know it's Cirie's episode, but we do have to pay attention to the other person who did go home.
I want to go on the record because I I in particular early in the season was not a fan of some of the histrionics of Devens.
Mm-hmm.
The whole breaking news. It's like, oh my God, this guy.
Yeah.
I really warmed up to Devens in the end. Guy has a big heart, very entertaining. To the point where I hope we see him again. He brings a lot of, when you talk about a guy who brought some lightheartedness to an otherwise very serious season.
Mm-hmm.
Devens checked that box in spades. What are your thoughts on Devens? How he played, how he went out? Seemed like he was pretty much dead at 7.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with you. I went into this season not really loving Devens. I kind of felt very similarly that you did. I didn't mind him on 38, but I was like, like he's fine. I listen, I'm not leaving here saying I'm Devens' biggest fan, but I'll say this, like he kept it entertaining and he is I actually really enjoyed his final tribal and like talking about the stars, and this is just you can tell how much this game means to him. It just
Yeah,
means so much. And he is so, and I love watching somebody who, this is my favorite show of all time. This game means a lot to me and I haven't played it. For this game truly just means the world to him, and he's had fun with it. I mean, listen, there's been 24 people on this season. The hidden idol, though we could say it was showboaty, it was fun. It kept
it
it
was.
interesting. It added something. The coin flip, he did it. It was a part of it. Like he tried to make big moves with the Cirie thing. He was a part of that. Like, listen, Devens is a character. He's a showboat. But at the end of the day, when you lean into taking him for what he's worth and what he wants to bring to the table, and he wants to bring entertainment and he wants to have fun, like he wants to play the game hard but also have fun with it, I respect it. And listen, I can't say I didn't. If it came down to rooting for him or some others, I would root for a type of game that he's playing versus somebody who is a little bit more of a, I think Devens has an ego, but it's not like an ego that is so condescending of others based on how they play the game. I think he respects the game. Whereas others, if you betray them, it's like, oh my gosh, like how dare you? And with the loyalty and integrity, and how dare you like screw me over? I think he knows it's all game.
Yeah.
And I've learned to respect Evans, and I think, listen, the amount of moves he made this season, he was just as big of a target as Cirie. And I think there was no escaping that. Even Aubry turned on him. And Aubry's somebody who played with him before. And I think this is in Aubry's moves of like, I need to get out the targets, and Devens and Cirie are the biggest threats to win this game.
Yeah, I saw it even in her exit press. And maybe it's lost on me because I didn't know who Mr. Beast was until he sauntered onto the beach with his weird smile.
Yeah.
But it certainly seemed like the residue of that coin flip was like oh my God, this is the biggest movement. This is a top 5 moment in Survivor history, and we got to get this guy out.
Yeah.
And, I think it's easy to sometimes watch the episodes weeks apart, and that, the shine on that fades. But, in real time, that was like 48 hours ago.
Yeah.
And so I think that does sort of, the residue stays with you, and your target level just does not go down quick enough.
Yeah. I mean, if you get the guy who literally increased and doubled the prize pot into the final 3, how can you not give him something and give him like the big risk that he took got him there? Like it's too, with, and even the hiding the idol, I mean, that's a big resume move. So he played hard, and I don't think he played a winning game, but he played a game that was fun to watch, and I enjoyed it. So he is somebody that I am ending the season higher feeling towards him than when I started this season. So
Well,
that's
and
always
you've consistently said this. You'd rather have people who come in and take risks and actually play hard than people who just get in an alliance and cruise.
agreed. 100%.
Let me ask you another Rick Devens related question,
Mm-hmm.
because we are in the hands of the fans with dynamic power. And where the heck are the immunity idols?
I mean, what it like, yeah, we could go on and on just about this dynamic power. We talked about it last year. What this hands of the fans kind of feels like a sham in some ways, because I'm just like, okay, okay, we didn't vote for this. Like we said, I think we said it perfectly last week. I want dynamic powers that are out there that they can find, and then you put it into the players' hands and see what they can do with it. In a way, Kevin, they actually, with the whole Billie Eilish boomerang idol of it all being the only 3 idols that were available this season, besides the one that was given to Devens in
Yeah,
with the coin flip, it actually was a less powerful idol. They couldn't play it on anyone else. They
it
were
was.
forced to play it on themselves. So, like, you couldn't even have someone like Rizo couldn't. There was no threat of will Rizo play this idol on someone else. There wasn't even that
Right.
added threat, because that's a big part of the idol. Like, okay, will the idol get played? Are they going to play it for themselves? Should we put a vote on this person? Will he play it for someone else? Like, we saw a little bit of it with Devens and Emily, where his idol actually could be played on someone else, and that caused a little bit of chaos with a great vote play by Cirie. But like, will he play it on Emily? Will he play it on himself? There was none of that. And
None of it.
so it's like this whole dynamic power, it really was less dynamic than it usually is, because it took away the ability for idols to be played elsewhere, and it was just kind of forced twists that had no impact on player strategy of how they decided to go about things, and was just like, deal with it and let's see how you do. And
Yeah.
here's this twist that's like just another way to get more people out at once, and then just leave it at that. So it's that, I think, has been the most frustrating thing about season 50. It feels like there's so many opportunities for you to even bring back old things from Survivor history. It's a celebration. Bring back an idol nullifier. Bring back like a different type. Bring back a different Beware advantage. I don't love Beware advantages. Bring something back. Like, there were so many opportunities for a dynamic power that just has kind of fallen flat.
Yeah, I mean, and you've been saying this for weeks. How cool would it have been if, when Joe took Cirie on the reward, if she found an advantage at the bottom of the cornbread when she
Yep.
was desperate for it
Yep.
to an idol? How much a steal a vote would have turned the game on its head?
100%.
And you know, it's almost like we're watching a very pre-season 12 version of this game where the alliance rules. There's not a lot of power in the game. There's no way to flip the game. I was happy Devens played his shot in the dark. I mean, at least that brings some excitement.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed Cirie didn't play hers, because the numbers dictated she should have. Like, she needed, at the end of the day, right? Aubry was going to vote for Cirie. Cirie was going to vote for Aubry. Cirie needed Rizo, Joe, and Jonathan to all vote for Aubry. So why not play her shot in the dark? Like, your vote was watered down.
I think Cirie's the type of person that I could totally see her, number one, forgetting that like it even exists, because who cares? Like, it's like she doesn't even need to even think about it at the end of the day. And she could also be somebody being like, I'm not playing that thing. Like, if I'm going, I'm going. And I could just see her playing like that. I really could.
As down as I was last week over Ozzy, if Cirie whipped out and hit a shot in the dark, I mean, I wouldn't be able to talk right now. I would be screaming so much.
Would have been so good. So
But
good.
they, you know, they just, the power is just, it's not there. And, you know, we saw she's masterful with these advantages. So there's really, you know, it kind of, to your point, it robs us of opportunity to see great players, you know, do big things and have big moments when you don't put those things in the game.
Agreed.
So I want to pivot to the immunity challenge. Let's talk about Tiffany a little bit, because huge comeback. I thought in that immunity challenge at 6, which was a huge obstacle course, had an interesting balance beam element. And then I love those arch puzzles. Those Survivor arch puzzles are great.
Yeah.
It looked like for the first time, Tiffany might have been feeling a little pressure. She was really having trouble getting over the balance beam. Enormous comeback.
Yeah.
No quitting her at all. Talk a little bit about Tiffany. How impressive.
I mean, it's so impressive. I also need to say, I mean, if anything says that you need to learn how to spell, it's watching this challenge was hysterical. I mean, Joe and Jonathan, what are we doing here? Like, what are these words that you are creating? I'm hoping maybe it's just like, because I know the thing was like, it has to be the same on both sides. So I'm hoping the side that we couldn't see, there was a little bit
Had it
more
actually spelled right?
made sense. But I was just like, what? Like they're like calling it. I'm like,
It
this
was
word is not spelled anything correct.
it was
Um,
bad. That was look. I know you're baked in the Fijian sun
I
and
know
you haven't eaten in a while, but that was yeah. How do you
it was
spell inconceivable?
inconceivable.
It was. Oh my! I will say this: Tiffany had no trouble spelling
No,
inconceivable.
none. It was so perfect. But no, to your point, Tiff, and I will say, Tiff, I just saw I saw on Instagram she was hosting a viewing party, and she really we saw a little bit of it, but she said all of them, I think, besides Cirie, were literally helping each other, like even worse than what they showed on screen. Like they were
Really? So
in
they
each
were all
other's.
trying to get her.
Yes, they all just wanted her to lose. So for her to win that is really, really impressive. She's just got so much fight in her, and she is. We've talked about. I didn't watch 46, and I really want to go back after 50 just to go back to see it and see Tiff on it because I've loved Tiff, and I'm actually like seeing Tiff making Final Five. Um, I think it's a shame that I know there's 24 contestants to start this show, but Tiff was invisible for a lot of the first half of this game. And for somebody who makes the Final Five, I wish I got to see more of her at the start of this game and just maybe a confessional or two more. I love her personality. I think she's a great competitor. And I just absolutely have really loved watching her. And I think I think she's emerging in this latter half of the game as a person who I could see her playing again. I think she's a lovable character, and I think she adds so much fun and humor and good reads of situations. I've just been really, really impressed with Tiff, and I loved that she wound up winning. Now, I had a feeling it would come at the demise of Cirie with that win, but she deserved it, and she absolutely crushed it, and I was really happy for her.
Yeah, you're not going to like this, but she reminds me so much of Ozzy when he was younger.
Mm.
Dominant in
Well, listen,
challenges.
I can see that. I'll give you that. I listen. I like Ozzy for his wins. I think Tiff has a little bit more social prowess than Ozzy.
A little bit, but she from a strategic perspective, and Rizzo, man, he is so good with the phrases. He gave us another one this week. Tiffany had idol fever, which I had not heard of before.
Yeah.
And, in this case, Aubry and Rizzo were kind of right. Like flushing the idol is really not a big deal here. And I don't know why she's so worked up about the idols.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, and I don't know if we have a moment to talk about Rizzo and his game at all, but
we're going to get to Rizzo. Don't worry.
Good. All right, good. But no, I think he did. I do think about this. Like they're all very concerned with this idol. At this point, like it's gonna run out of power at some point. So it's just like, also if Rizzo's not a threat to you and you don't feel threatened by him, like who cares if he has it? He can't use it on someone else. And I think that is the thing that's unspoken. Like there's no threat. If you don't vote for Rizzo, it's not like he can play it on someone else. So it's just like, who cares? Let him have it. Let him skate by, and then we'll get rid of him down the line, or take him to Final Three. People might think they could beat him in Final Three. So who cares? He's not a threat at the end of the day.
So let's look ahead a little bit because 23 days down, 3 to go. We have a final 5 of Joe, Jonathan, Aubry, Rizzo, and of course Tiffany, who we were just talking about. To me, this is an incredibly wide open final 5.
Yeah,
I think Aubry and Jonathan probably edged ahead marginally. I think love them or hate them, Tiffany and Joe both can at least make cases about the games they played and why they deserve the title. And I think Rizzo is maybe just a half a step behind, but he at least can make the case. I was thinking about, is this the most wide open final 5 we had? Not necessarily the best, right? Not the biggest personalities or the, like we were just talking about fans versus favorites, which was a classic final 5 with Eric and the Black Widow Brigade.
Yeah.
But this final 5 feels wide open right now.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I would say, listen, when you look at the cast of 24 people who started this season, like you look at the 5 who are left, like, and returning seasons, this tends to be the case because the big threats tend to go out. Listen, I do think if we're taking editing out of it, because I think the edit has painted pictures of people being more dominant gamers than others. I do think it is wide open. I'll say this, and listen, I won't go in. I'm not going to rip him up again this week. I know you said Joe has a shot. I don't think Joe has a shot. And I think I wouldn't say Rizzo's a step behind Joe. I do think Rizzo is a step ahead of Joe in terms of how he could show up to a jury. But it is a very wide open field. It's if Cirie was there, I'd be like, well, Cirie would win this game. Like, but they're all kind of played different low key games in a way. There's not really a dominant driving force. Now, I know that the narrative is telling us that Aubry and Jonathan are dominant driving forces. I don't know how much of necessarily that is, how much you can convince someone of something or in the confessionals. And listen, a lot of this game in the end is convincing somebody that you did make the moves that you made and it was such a big impact. It's storytelling and painting a picture to people to make them sound like I did all of this and you guys don't realize it, but this is how I got there. So I agree to your point. I do think it's wide open in the sense of they all have very nobody's game is like vastly above the others that like it's like, oh, that person's going to win no matter what if they're there. I do think it's pretty wide open.
Yeah, and Aubry was talking a lot about the quote unquote sitting next to the right people at the end. And one of the things that makes this really interesting is, and when you go back and you watch 46, it was clear like you did not want to sit next to Maria at the end. She had the big game. This season, the right people is different for all 5 people, which I think is going to make it really hard to build a consensus. These votes are just going to be chaotic.
Yeah.
Because Aubry's right people is definitely different than Tiffany's, which is definitely different than Jonathan's, which is definitely different than Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking in particular at Aubry versus Jonathan. It's pretty fascinating because they're both going to obviously try and take credit for the Aussie move.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're probably both going to try and take some level of credit for the Cirie move.
Yep.
Jonathan is certainly, he's had a little bit more, at least from the edit, flash.
Yeah.
The D move was flashy.
Uh-huh.
He survived the Stephanie vote, and he certainly was able to convince Ozzy and convince Cirie that Stephanie was the traitor, no pun intended. And then, he got Emily out. He got her. And so he's had some signature moves of putting people on the jury.
Yeah.
Aubry seems like she's trying to pitch this idea of like, well, I played the middle and I was really controlling the votes in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to her voting. And the problem is, if you look at all the votes, when they voted out Genevieve, she voted with the majority 4-0. When they voted out D, she voted with the majority and she burned her idol in a ridiculous way. When they voted out Coach and Chrissy, she voted with the majority. When they voted out Christian, it was a split vote, but she went with the majority. When they voted out Stephanie, 8-2, went with the majority. When they voted out Ozzy, 4-1, went with the majority. So I don't know how she's going to pitch the idea she played the middle. Yes, she was in the majority, but that's not a winning game. That's just we got you to the end game.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of, it's all about, again, how you can spin it. I think it's ironic that, and I kind of love that we keep referring back to it. It is ironic because we look back at Karong and many would say Aubry was the one driving everything, but Michelle painted that picture and she was well liked on the jury. And Aubry sat next to 2 people who are just a genuine top between Ty and Michelle, like more likable than her. And I think she is realizing that if she can paint a picture to the jury like Michelle did, that is, I was in control of things. You just said she was in the majority every time. To me, if she pitches it as I was never on the wrong side of the vote, I was always in people's mouths, but I always wound up being on the right side of the vote every single time. I think that's a different way to frame it. And I actually think if we're talking about this Jonathan, and let's throw in Joe, I've been saying this for a few weeks now. I do think it's going to be Aubry, Jonathan, and Joe. I'm going to make a comparison to another season and another winner. I think that final tribal will look an awful lot like Sophie Clark beating coach.
Oh, wow.
Because like, look at it. It's this witty, smart woman who was kind of in the background, who is sitting next to two meatheads, who is like, these men thought they were controlling it, but guess what? I let Jonathan think that. He thought he was in control of the Aussie vote. Nope, that was me. I'm the one that started stirring things up. Jonathan thought he was in control of this. No, no, no. I did that too. Like, and I think that I think she's gonna win people over that way. And you talked about this a lot. Having, in terms of the right people, Aubry's right people are Jonathan and Joe. Taking less loyalty and integrity people off the jury and not stacking them where more people will vote for, let's say, Jonathan. You get rid of Joe, they're voting for Jonathan. You get rid of Jonathan, he's probably voting for Joe. So I think it's this, take both of them. They could possibly even split votes if they tend to decide. If somebody wants to vote for Joe, great. But I think Aubry knows those are the right two to go with. And it is, you have these two big, strong men who share a lot of similar characteristics. And then you have somebody that you have a very unique game. I think even Rizo could say a type of game move that is similar to Aubry's. I think Jonathan and Joe visually look different and will present something very different, where Aubry's case can really stand on its own. And I think it's all how she sells it, and it's seemingly in the edit she has a lot of fire to do so. So I think she's going to show up. She's going to show up to Final Tribal like a Sophie and kind of roast these men and be like, yeah, these guys thought they were in control, but I was actually in control of this game post-merge.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I'm glad you brought up Karang because, scar tissue has been the theme through this season, right? Ozzy with being blindsided, Joe with, the wedgie on national TV with Kyle and Camilla. And this is kind of Aubry's moment. Like Karang is her scar tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think Joe and Jonathan, it's a great point. They split the loyalty vote. Aubry can get the rest essentially, and that's her pathway.
Yeah. I think that's her path. I think you sit next to Tiff, Tiff's going to get votes. I think Aubry knows that you sit next to Rizo. I think Rizzo's a wild card and he can talk and he's a smooth talker and he can sell a game. Rizo is a very different player than Jonathan and Joe. So I think you sit next to Rizo. Listen, I don't know if Rizzo's going to get many votes. I just don't know how the jury will read him. I think a lot of people think him as the squirrely, annoying kid. But I do think Aubry is setting herself up for a win here. I do.
So let's go through these because I was thinking about it all day and I couldn't land the right answers. But so Aubry wants Jonathan and Joe. Mm-hmm. Who's Jonathan want to sit next to?
I think Jonathan would say Joe, and I would say definitely not Tiff. I would say he would take Rizo or Aubry. And I think he'll be fine with either. I actually think he'd probably prefer to take Rizo, if I'm being honest. But which could come down to my prediction is I think Tiff goes at 5.
Yeah, well, unless she wins immunity, which she's a real threat.
Wins immunity, which is very possible. I think she could go at 5, and then if fire making is still in play, I can see Aubry and Rizo going to fire.
Oh my God,
winning, which will help.
Rizo losing another fire making.
I know, which would be crazy.
Nobody's ever lost 2? Well, I guess Cirie. No.
Cirie.
Well, if you count Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, that'd be tough for the kid.
Yeah, that would be tough.
So I think you made a great point about diluting the loyalty votes. You don't think Jonathan sees that?
I don't.
Yeah, strategy.
I think he also, I hate to say it, I think he views Joe as a little bit of a layup because Joe has made every decision that Jonathan has told him to make. So I think right then and there, I think Jonathan feels, and probably rightfully so, no matter what Jonathan says, if people are going to vote for Jonathan or Joe, they're going to vote for Jonathan.
Do you think Joe feels the same way? Because I agree with you 100% that those guys have to get each other out eventually. Or do you think Joe wants to take Jonathan to the end?
I think he wants to take Jonathan to the end. I think Joe just wants to get to the end and wants to be loyal to the person he was with. I don't think there's an ounce of strategy in Joe's in anything that he's doing right now. I just think I was loyal to Jonathan, I'm going to go with Jonathan. I don't think he even cares who the other person is, if I'm being honest with you. I just think he wants to get there and then figure it out, which was his problem last season. He wanted to get there with Eva.
Wow.
And got there with Kyle, who completely obliterated him and didn't think twice about that.
Killed him.
So I think he's not thinking about it.
And then obviously there's Tiffany, and I agree with you. I think if Tiffany gets there, she's so likable. This is one of those deals where, she has great relationships with everyone on the jury. She's played an incredibly, from a physical prowess standpoint, she's dominant in these challenges. Incredible. I would say the one knock on her, she hasn't controlled the votes. And when she's tried to, the votes haven't gone in the direction she's wanted. And, she'll have to pitch around that.
Yeah.
Who do you think?
I was going to say, we do forget, though, that, like, after the D vote, she was on the bottom. Like, we thought she was going. So, like, she could also argue that, like, I really scraped my way out of that.
Yeah, but you know what? I wrote it down at the time, and it was so smart. When that D vote was going down, Tiffany, I remember in her confessional, she said, you know what? I'm not happy about it, but I'm not throwing my game in front of the train to save her. Yeah. And how many people did? Christian threw his game in front of the train trying to save Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Mike White threw his game in front of the train trying to save Angelina.
Mm-hmm.
Give her some credit. She did not wreck her own game to save her alliance person. And now, we're only talking a couple of immunity challenges.
Yep. She has a chance to win it all.
I think that they will go after her at 5.
Mm-hmm.
But what irks me about it is it feels like bad strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If I were Jonathan, I would not go after Tiffany. You have to cut Joe loose. You can't dilute. You're not going to win if you take Joe to the end. You're going to split the vote.
Yeah. But I think that's Jonathan's ego. I think he thinks he's going to win no matter what. I think Jonathan thinks if he gets there, he's winning. I fully believe that.
I've reconciled this.
Yes.
He voted out my favorite player of all time, and then he got out, Cirie, who I was rooting for to win the thing finally. Mm-hmm. And so it's human nature. Of course, you're not going to like the person who does that.
Yeah.
When I separate those feelings, though, I'll give him credit for one thing, which is he has pushed a lot of votes.
Yes.
And he's gotten his way, which is a hallmark to having a resume.
100%. I mean, listen, I don't necessarily like the guy, but I am rational enough to give him the credit. Jonathan has made some really great moves in the game to position himself in a good spot. I really think that. I think he's rubbed people the wrong way in some ways, which I think is eventually going to get him.
Yeah, like D is not voting for him.
D is not voting for him. I think if it is Aubry there with them, I don't think Cirie is voting for him. I don't think Ozzy necessarily is voting for him.
Definitely not.
I think
I think Stephanie would. I think Coach would. I think Chrissy would.
Stephanie, Coach, and Chrissy lock. Hands down will. But Christian, I don't think would. I don't think Rick Devens would.
Definitely not.
I don't think Tiffany would. I don't think Rizo would. So I think what's going to happen is very much like Coach running into that final tribal with Sophie. I think he came in thinking like, I am going to win this game. And then because he doesn't see beyond how great of a game that he feels he played. And listen, I'll give Jonathan credit. He played some great moves. But you have somebody coming in there that'll be like, boom, and undermine his game, who people tend to like more. Like Aubry, Cirie likes Aubry. D likes Aubry. Tiffany likes Aubry. Christian likes Aubry. Devens likes Aubry. So like, all you need is people who want to root for you, and nothing is more powerful than having people on the jury want you to win, because sometimes they fight the battle for you. They get up there and they create a case. Imagine having Cirie make a case for you. That's amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, so you're convincing me. Likely scenario here, Joe and Jonathan don't turn on each other.
Mm-hmm.
If Tiff doesn't win immunity, which is a big if because she's capable, they get her out at 5. Probably end up with some scenario where you have Aubry and Rizo in fire making.
Yeah.
and then you probably end up with a final three of Jonathan, Joe, Rizo. Let me ask you.
Rizo, Jonathan, Joe, Aubry.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, Joe, Aubry.
Yeah.
Misspoke. Let me ask you this. If you get Jonathan, Aubry, and Joe, and you know Ozzy has been back at Ponderosa talking about Jonathan, and like you said, there's already a contingent of folks that's not a fan. Could you see Joe getting the 6 votes? Could you see Coach Chrissy, Stephanie, Ozzy? Tiffany likes Joe. He'd need one more. But he could theoretically get there before Jonathan could under that scenario.
Yes, but I also think that people respect this game, and I don't think people respect Joe's game. I think so. You've heard Cirie say she's felt like she's had to babysit this guy. Like, Joe's a nice guy. She even said in her exit press today, in one of the ones I was watching, like, Joe's a nice guy, but like the way Joe operates is not how it's not really built for Survivor. So I just think people don't felt like they couldn't really play with Joe because he just wasn't willing to play in any way, and I don't think a lot of people respect that. So you're telling me Devens is going to vote for Joe?
No, but when you start to play with it a little bit, like, who does Rizo vote for out of that trio? Rizo and Joe have been tight. Joe, the one thing about Joe, he doesn't like to be left out of votes. And, Ozzy, who could take some notes on jury management, every vote, Rizzo's been very careful to counsel Joe. Like, little stuff.
I just think you can be tight with somebody. I mean, look, he said he was tight with Soph, and he was tight with Soph, but he still voted for Savannah. I think he's vote for somebody who he thinks deserves to win. I think Rizo respects this game too much, and I just think Joe is a nice guy. They get along with him, but I don't think anybody left or on the jury necessarily will respect his game moves.
All right, so let's have the Rizo conversation.
Yeah, I think, because here's what I'm going to say. I've been seeing, like, I am on Twitter, on Instagram, and I very much cater my page to people with a lot of like-minded views of really loving Cirie. And I love Cirie, and I am all about it. And last night, I really saw a lot of people come for Rizo in terms of, he's not even good at this game. This kid just really skated to the end both times, and really, like,
that's not fair.
Coming at him for, like, just being not good at this game, and just and somehow getting there, and people upset that he betrayed Cirie and all of that. Listen, could I be upset with Rizo that he didn't get my favorite to the end so that she could win? Of course, I would have loved to see that happen. But Rizzo's not going to want to be a layup. Like, we can't sit here and say that this kid is not good at this game. I actually think Rizo is very good at this game. I think it is very impressive that he went 2 seasons in a row where he has not played his idol and held on to it for this long. I think it takes balls. At, like, pardon my French, but it does. And I could be upset with him all I want. You'd be a fool to sit next to Cirie. And listen, if he went with Cirie and Ozzy, I've been seeing people be like, he could have been sitting with Cirie and Ozzy. Why would you do that? Like, in what world do you think, if you think you're not going to beat Cirie, you think you're going to beat Cirie and Ozzy? Like, come on. So people I feel like, are just really being hard on him for this decision of betraying Cirie. End of the day, I mean, listen, he helped Cirie get this far in terms of, like, being an alliance member and giving Cirie information, which is great. I'm not saying he's the reason Cirie got this far. Cirie did that very much on her own. But listen, he had to cut the ties when he needed to cut the ties. He might not get to the end because of this, but if he got to the end with Cirie anyway, like, he would have lost. So it's like, I respect him in that he's not playing to get to the end. He's playing to win. Joe's playing to get to the end. I don't think Rizo is playing to get to the end. Rizo said this in 49. He came here to swing big. And he did. He said, I'd rather go out at 9 than go out, make it to Final Tribal and lose. And I have to respect him for that. So listen, people can say I'm crazy in supporting Rizo. I really like the kid. And I think, listen, do I think he's going to win this game? I don't think he's even going to get to final tribal. I think that even if he does, I think he might be outmatched. I think people view him a little bit as this kid, not really a threat, but he's made some great moves in this game, and I have to respect he played 2 seasons in a row, and he's made the final 2 seasons in a row. I said to you before this game even started that I thought he was going to be writing on the wall out of this game. And if you look back at the preseason Dalton Ross Entertainment Weekly, whatever it was, talking about friend or foe, and everybody picked Rizo as a foe because they didn't know his game and they were threatened by that. Yet he was able to ingratiate himself so much that he's now made it to the final 5. I mean, listen, I can't blame the kid for cutting Cirie. I really respect the game that he's playing, and I might get some hate for that, but I have to give Rizo his flowers where they're due.
Yeah, it's not. I agree with you 100%. To say he's not good at Survivor is not fair.
Yeah.
And he's so early in his Survivor career. Like I don't know if we see him again in 2 years or 10 years, but we'll see Rizo again, and it'll be interesting to see how his game evolves, right?
100%.
I would say a couple things. If you just sort of look at his gameplay, one thing that he does really well, he's smart enough to get away from people when it's time. Christian wasn't smart enough to get away from Emily, right, when it was time. Rizo was smart enough to get away from Dee, and he was smart enough to get away from Ozzy and Cirie, right? And sometimes that's how you move forward in the game, right? You have to be malleable, and you have to find pathways to get forward.
Yeah.
And he excels at that. He seems to have an instinct for it, right? He didn't abandon Savannah and Soph, right? He didn't jump to the wrong people. That's, there's an instinctual part of that. I agree with you. Day after you turn on one of the most popular players in the history of the franchise, you're going to get some sour grapes here. I would say though that, for Rizo to win this game, he's going to have a couple big moments here coming down the stretch, because I think you have a jury that, and this is just my sense, they didn't see him play ever. Yeah. And on top of that, he's younger, and I do think it's just human nature, right? There's an age bias here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where they don't want to give what is he, 21 years old?
I think he's 24, 25, I want to say.
Okay, so they don't want to give a 24-year-old $2 million, right? Yeah.
And from 49, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, these are people that want to celebrate the show for season 50. They don't know what he did. So it's like, it's crazy to think, do we really want to give the winner of this show to the person who played a month ago? Like, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's impressive either way, but I get what you're saying completely.
He was definitely an asset to the season. I mean, he had some very, very big moments.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. I mean, it's just not being fair if you take those away. We saw them. They were on TV.
Yeah, completely agree.
So, all right, my friend, 1 episode to go.
I know.
Are you sticking with Aubry here?
I'm sticking with Aubry. I think.
Who had Aubry down as the last old school player in the game?
Not I.
I didn't have her on my bingo card. That's for sure.
Listen, I'd had Aubry. Listen, pre-merge, we were like, "What in the world how is this woman gonna be even moving forward?" But I'll give it to her. She's really come back from that merge, and I think from playing that idol carelessly, I think in a way it kind of woke her up, and I think she just needed to get her footing. And I think, without question, my winner pick is Aubry.
It would be, look, we like Aubry in this house.
Yeah.
And it would be incredibly popular to see her bounce back, get a win in her 4th try.
Agreed.
She's got a tall task, though.
Completely agree. It's going to be tough for her, but yeah, I think, listen, and I am going to root for Aubry. I'm rooting for Rizo, I'm rooting for Aubry, and I'm rooting for Tiff. I'm not rooting for the other two. So depending on who makes it there, I think I am actually excited to see if Aubry does make it with the 2 that I am predicting, of Jonathan and Joe. I actually am excited to see how she presents to the jury, because I think Aubry's gonna crush it. I really do.
You want to talk about scar tissue? She has some bit to overcome there. It'd be fascinating.
I think, ironically, the scar tissue is she came into that final tribal in Karong thinking that she played the best game and thinking that I don't really need to, my game's going to speak for itself. And here came Michelle ready to sell, and she sold it. And like, I think she was almost like flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I ironically do think that Aubrey's going to come in the position that Michelle was. And I think Jonathan's going to think he had this great game and he's ready to just go. And I think she's going to blindside him. And I think she's going to come in hot and ready to show what she's got.
All right, my friend.
We will talk next week. Finale.
I'm almost a little bit sad. Only one episode left.
I know. It's crazy. It's
all right. Have a good week. We'll be watching. Thanks, Mike.
Be watching. Bye, Kev.
All right, bye. All right. That is it for the pod. I want to thank all 7 people out there who listened to this episode. If you liked this episode, feel free to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. The video for this episode is also available on YouTube. My handle is @KevinsKetchup. You can also follow me on social media. I am on Instagram and I am on X. I will make a new announcement each week. A new episode is available. Survivor Season 50. Only one episode remaining. We get the 2-hour finale followed by the live reunion show. That promises to be action-packed, and it sounds like a little bit of drama. We'll be back to recap it all. Everyone have a great week. Thank you. Bye-bye.